time, your gateway to the world. AFR! American Freedom Radio. Give it to them.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and happy Tuesday. It's September 10, 2013. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. Soul Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. This is the second Tuesday of the month, so we are joined by the lovely and brilliant Shaman Avalon Sakti. She is a trained and experienced shaman, also experienced in the use of magic for healing and transformation. She's a trained yoga master and has taught yoga for groups and individuals in various countries throughout the globe. She now brings this to us here online, does her courses, her online tuition, as well as healing practices and teaching you how to do it yourself at her website. That's sacredserpent.net. And don't forget to check out the Magic Shop and all the amazingly informative articles about all of these wonderful topics we talk about here. And tonight, we decided to talk about achieving trance states. Which is, pretty much the foundation or prerequisite for all shamanic work and journeying, going to the other worlds for healing and transformation, etc. So, woohoo! You can join us if you have any questions or comments, either in the chat room at souljourneysradio.com, or you can give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. Again, her website is sacredserpent.net. But it is so good to have you here tonight, Sakti. How are you doing?
Good evening, Christie, and all the listeners. I'm so pleased to be here again, and I'm doing okay, considering the dark forces never stop throwing things at me, so every day is a bit like an obstacle course. But other than that, I'm still alive and kicking and very happy to be here again.
Woohoo! It's Shakti Boot Camp, and I guess we're off to a better start than last month, where we couldn't even hear each other, and or you couldn't hear me, and I had to post the questions in the chat for you to talk or to share with us. But yeah, we are off to a good start. So woohoo! We are flying high and mighty bold. So this is kind of a big topic here tonight, achieving trance states. So let's, I guess, start off with the basics here tonight, Sakti. What is a trance state, and why would one want to achieve that?
Well, first of all, I would like to tell all the listeners that you've all been in a trance state before. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't the shamanic trance, but you can get into a trance, for example, when you do long-distance driving with your car, especially in the night, and other times when you're just spacing out. So trance state is quite natural. It's a kind of dreamy state, and it happens often when we do repetitive things, or we are involved in things that we find boring, like hours of potato peeling, or when you're sitting in a train and the sound of the train going over the rails goes on and on and on, then often you enter automatically into a trance state. But of course, that doesn't make you a shaman yet.
Yeah,
would be nice. But as a shaman, you have to be able to access the trance state at will whenever you need it, and also you need to achieve a fairly deep trance. And with the deeper trances the deeper you go in trance, the more difficult it gets to stay conscious and not go completely unconscious. And also, when you're coming out of it again, to bring the knowledge back from those deep trance states needs some training of the mind so that you can actually recall what happened, provided you were in a really, really deep trance. If it was just a lighter trance, then you will remember clearly what was going on. So it's a training of the mind that it is needed, and there are a lot of different ways of accessing trance states. So if one method doesn't work for you, you can try another one.
Okay.
Because we are all different, so For some people, drumming works perfectly, and for other people, it doesn't work so well. And I think I would like to talk a little bit first about why we should be wanting to get into a trance in the first place.
Yeah, either that or out of the trance that we're currently in.
That's not really a trance. That's more a kind of enchantment. But even that word isn't right. It's like, I would say, we've been ensorcelled.
Yeah, for
it's a
sure.
kind of black magic spell that got us all.
I agree with that. Okay.
And so trance states are very useful for many different things. For example, a shaman might use trance state to find game if they wanted to go hunting, to find out where the buffalo was, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having an echo at the moment.
Well,
I'm trying to mute. Okay, that might be better. And when you're in a trance state, you can find solutions that you might not normally have access to with your rational mind.
yes.
Such as you can see the cause of a disease. So if a shaman was trying to treat somebody for a health problem, they could see like what was the source of the disease or what possible treatments would work, what plants could be helpful. Was it a bad spirit causing these problems? And of course, even if you're not a shaman, you might have problems in your life that you can't find a rational mind solution. And your subconscious mind or higher self or higher powers may be able to help you out and tell you, for example, which place you should be moving to. A lot of people want to know, where should I be going if earth changes are coming. So you might be able to get information which is the right place to go to for you. Healing, obviously, if you want to heal yourself also, not just if you want to heal another. And then if you want to talk to your spirit guides, that's not possible at all if you cannot enter a trance. And you can also, when you're in a trance, you can scan your energy body and see whether there are any intrusions, whether you've got entities externally attached to you or other things. And it can help you to, if you want to do divination, not fortune telling, but for example, you want to see the future or you want to do a card reading for somebody else. If you can access a trance state, you might be able to download information for your client. So anybody who works psychically will benefit from being able to access trance states. Any healer will benefit from it, shaman, anybody who's looking for solutions for themselves or want to talk to their spirit guides. It's just so useful in so many ways. You know, even if you got lost in the forest and you couldn't find the way out at all, and you didn't have a clue on, reading directions and which side of the tree the moss grows on and that, if you can access a trance state, then you might have access to your guides or subconscious mind telling you the way out. So it's just for problem solving.
Yeah. Okay, Shakti, do you mind sharing with us, maybe obviously with all the shows we've done and everything you've talked about, you are extremely adept at the trance-like states, and I know that myself and many others I talk to, we just think we're not doing it right, or, yet we all have experiences of, whoa, I was in this crazy trance, or, when you feel when you're coming from the dream state and such. So I was wondering if you can share with us some of maybe your first experiences that you remember going into the trance state. Was it something that you had planned on doing, or was it just, happened spontaneously that, or how you learned to be so adept and efficient at it?
I think if I'm telling the truth, I have an inborn ability. And I know that because I have always seen the other that people cannot always see. Yeah. I remember one time when I was a teenager, I was alone at home, and I saw a wolf standing in the living room. Obviously, there wasn't a real wolf, but it looked pretty solid. So I must have seen something from the spirit realm, and I must have gone into an altered state. And I know I do that all the time. I constantly go into altered states. For example, I've got power songs when I was frying some chapatis in my kitchen.
Oh.
So I go into trance states when I'm cooking.
Yeah, definitely.
Or when I'm doing cross stitch. I think I drive my car much better when I'm in a trance state actually than in the normal state.
My best meditative states ever, driving.
Even if I'm walking in the woods, I seem to be going in altered states very often, and I have to be a bit careful because if I go off into states which are too altered, I think it's quite easy to step to other dimensions, and you might get lost that way. It's just, for me, it seems quite a natural thing. And you find that people who are often in a little bit of a dreamlike state, where people say, hey, you see their eyes kind of getting a bit unfocused and blurry because they are somewhere else. They've just gone into a trance. And sometimes when you're switching to altered states, you can actually really go somewhere else physically and you're not there. And it happens to me so often that people don't see me while I'm in plain view of them, to the point that they've run into me, or they just said, you weren't there just a moment ago, but I was standing there all the time. There was one time I was in a supermarket with a good friend, and I stood in front of the fruit counter, and I was thinking of what fruit should I buy, and then I spaced out. I was somewhere else in my mind. Next, my friend said he's been looking for me for 3 minutes, and he was just opposite the fruit stand, and I was in plain view, and he didn't see me, and then I kind of popped back into his vision all of a sudden. And I think I went somewhere else somehow. I think when you're shifting your mind to a completely different frequency, that you might become invisible for others. I think it's a possibility. Anyway, so in my case, it seems to be a natural ability. But then even if you have a natural ability, you need to learn to control that. Because obviously you don't want to be spacing out all the time at the wrong moment.
Like and when you're driving in the city and it's like, oh wait, where are we?
And then also, if you have the ability to space out all the time, that doesn't mean that you can do it at the moment when you actually want to do shamanic work, because quite often then the rational mind comes in and the programming tells you that this is nonsense, you're just making it up. So you're self-sabotaging with these thoughts and ideas that you have, which are erroneous and based on basically hearsay and things that other people have told you, and that we take for true because it was told to us by an authority figure like a teacher, etc. So the first thing is to recognize the trance state and know that you've gone into them before. And so if you've gone into them before, there's no reason why you can't do it again. Then you just have to learn how to, consciously do it. Yeah. It's a bit like learning how to ride the bicycle and keeping that balance. Once you know how to do it, you go on auto drive, and it is just like the easiest thing in the world. But in the beginning, it may seem a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
and
makes total sense.
One of the absolutely best tools for learning how to access trance states is the breath.
Okay.
And the ancient yogis have known that. So when you actually slowing down your breath and mind are interconnected. So if you're slowing down your breath, you're going into a deeper state of mind also. When we are agitated, like in a state of fear, the breath gets very fast. Or when we're angry. And if you are in a calm and relaxed state, your breath automatically is much calmer and slower. And these two things work. It's a two-way street. So if you can control your mind, your breath gets slower. And if you can control your breath, your mind gets more relaxed. And so the trick to go into a trance state is to be able to take very deep and rhythmic breaths, and very few of them. And I have been I've gone spontaneously into trance, non-planned, when I slowed my breath down to about 2 breaths per minute. Now, that takes a little bit of practice before you can do such a slow breathing rate. Because if you're used to shallow breathing, you won't be able to do that. You need to learn how to use your diaphragm and use your whole breathing apparatus, which is belly breathing and chest breathing, but not clavicular breathing, which is when you're raising the shoulders. And once you can do, good yogic breath where you filling the air into the belly first and then into the chest, and then you're exhaling the belly and the chest again, then you can slow the breath because you get enough oxygen if you breathe fully and if you exhale fully. And once the breath is slow, you will automatically go into a alpha state, like meditative state, and from there you can enter into trance.
Okay. Are you hearing me okay, Shakti?
I do. Can you still hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it was just a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure if it's going out over the air, if it's just on my computer or whatever. So, okay, as long as you can hear, we are good to go. So the breathing,
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifilan brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifilan. There's nothing else like Modifilan. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifilan banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Our special guest tonight, Shaman Avalon Sakti. Her website is sacredserpent.net, and she is not just our special guest tonight. She joins us the second Tuesday of every month, so if this is your first time listening to her, I would highly encourage you to go check out the archives. In fact, I'll post a link here in the chat where you can go directly to all of her archives. Wonderfully informative shows, as always, having to do with, psychic vampires, past lives, soul retrievals, signs and symptoms of sorcery and psychic attack, working with your spirit guides, resisting mind control, and all sorts of fun things. So, we left off, she is sharing with, of course, the topic tonight is achieving trance states, and left off starting to talk about breathing and long, deep breaths versus short, shallow, hyperventilating. Am I meditating yet? Did I get there yet? So, Shakti, would you recommend that we, maybe get with a breathing coach or start doing yoga? What would you recommend for us to get to those long, deeper breaths that help you get into these trance states?
I think yoga is the way to go, and I did it with yoga also. The first thing you can do is to learn proper abdominal breathing. You need to isolate the abdominal breath from the chest breathing. In the end, of course, you want to have both. But the problem with modern living is that we've been taught to mostly breathe with the chest because we think it looks more attractive. And so people don't do belly breathing anymore, which is really important. So the first exercise is basically you lie down and you can put a book or something heavy on top of your belly and have a little mirror in your hand so that you can see what's happening. And you want to inhale in such a way that the book goes up with your belly. And when you exhale, the book sinks down, but you shouldn't be seeing any movement on your chest. That's when you have proper belly breathing. And then, of course, you want this breathing to be slow and even. So if you inhaling and your book starts to shake as it goes up like a little earthquake, then your breathing is not steady. Your breathing muscles aren't strong enough, and with the time it will get very, very good, so that you can inhale and the belly just rises gradually and evenly and then falls down again. And once you can do that, you should have a ratio. In the very beginning, the inhalation and exhalation can be the same length of time, but then later on, when you get a little bit more advanced, the exhalation should actually be twice as long as the inhalation. So that's like the very first exercise. And then so you can count when you inhale Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, and then exhale to the count of up to Om 6. Once you can do twice as long exhalation as inhalation. And then you want to also start doing it in sitting, because in lying it's easier to control the muscles. Once you can do it in sitting in lying nicely, then you can do it sitting up. And again, use a mirror to control yourself, that when you're inhaling, you're not raising your shoulders, or that it's not really going into the chest. Once you can do this really good, deep, slow belly breathing, then you can combine the abdominal breath with the chest breathing, where you first fill the air into the belly and then into the chest, and then you exhale the belly while the chest basically still is filled with air, and then you let the air out of the chest. That way you're breathing in such a way that you're using the full lungs. You get more oxygen. It's also healthier for your lungs and for your whole system. And of course you're also absorbing prana, the vital energy. The Chinese call it qi. And so it's generally good for your health and your looks and your well-being and vitality. And at the same time, as the breath goes slower, you can calm your mind. So, for example, somebody makes you very angry and annoyed. You want to calm yourself down. You can slow your breath, and you will calm down.
Oh, damn. I usually just grab like a 380. But yeah, maybe it would behoove me to start working on my breathing. Okay, bad joke. Shakti didn't get. Never mind.
I did get the joke. I was smiling.
Okay. All right. So, and you're so right on the breathing. It isn't just good for us to achieve those states, but yeah, for your health, asthma, heart disease, stress, all sorts of things. In fact, I'd recommend breathing.com. Excellent information about why we might want to start being mindful of our breathing. Now, I'm assuming that we're going to want to work our way up to our 2 breaths per minute, like what you do, right? So maybe can we start with exercises, say inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2 counts, exhale for 8 counts, and just maybe go up 1 or 2 counts each time?
Yes, you work yourself up to it gradually.
Mm-hmm.
And very true, Christie. When you really do good breathing, you will have an automatic pause after the inhalations, and also after the exhalations.
Okay. All right. And does the amount of time of the pause really matter, or just the fact that we're doing it?
Just make it natural. And beginners probably can't have a pause yet, because they panic. Beginners have the idea that the inhalation is the most important part of the breath, because they think that's how they're getting air, and if they're not inhaling enough, then they will suffocate. A lot of people have suffocation fears. So,
okay.
But actually, if you're not exhaling fully, then all your inhalation isn't going to help you much, because your lungs are full with stale air, and you get only a minimum of oxygenized air in. So you have to wrap your mind around the idea that the inhalation is the most important thing. If you can do a really, really good exhalation, then you will get more oxygen in the end. And the little pause you can in the beginning do without a pause. When you feel more confident with your breathing, when you're not having suffocation fears anymore, then you can maybe have a second pause. And in deeper states of mind, sometimes when you're doing certain work where meditation or something where you're going automatically in a deep trance, sometimes it actually happens that the breath completely stops and you don't seem to be breathing at all for minutes. But there will be no feeling of any suffocation. And there was one time I was underwater, and I must have been underwater for maybe 10 minutes without breathing. But I was so relaxed that I forgot that I have to breathe underwater. And I was witnessed by a friend of mine, and I've never been able to repeat that, because when you go underwater and you think I'm going to hold my breath now, you get anxiety. Not really anxiety. I'm very comfortable in the water, but if you think that I can't have any breath now for the next 5 minutes, then you'll panic a little.
Yep, I would panic.
But at that time, I just went underwater, and I was in a, deep in thought, and I stayed in there for ages in that whirlpool, and until my friends started to think I might have drowned. And it was only when I started thinking, wait a moment, I've been down there for ages and I haven't needed any breath. People do need to breathe. And the moment I thought that, then that was the end of it. Then I had about 20 seconds until I started feeling a little bit short of breath, and I had to come up.
Wow. Okay.
So this can happen naturally because breath is connected to consciousness, and in very deep states of consciousness, the breath even suspends automatically.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, what are your thoughts about maybe practicing this upon first waking in the morning, or maybe right before bed, where our body is already naturally relaxed, our breathing is maybe a little bit less tense than it probably is after we go work our jobs for 8 or 9 hours and get yelled at and sit in traffic and all that good stuff? Would that be helpful for beginners?
I personally like, before going to bed, I used to do this always when I lie down, and before I fall asleep, I would relax my whole body and do 10 minutes of really deep breathing and slow the breath down, and I think it helps considerably with breathing. The only drawback is if you're really overworked and you don't have enough sleep, then you may drop off within a minute without getting to practice at all. And the early morning, well, it depends on your schedule. I mean, if your schedule is very busy and hectic in the morning I don't have time. I have animals to look after and all kind of things going on in the morning. So you find the time that works best for you, and it's okay to have several sessions. So, for example, you could be taking part of your lunch break and do 5 minutes of deep breathing during your lunch break, even sitting in the park on a bench, Who cares? And then you can do a little bit at night before you go to bed, or when you're already lying in bed. And it's going to work if you do it every day.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned drums or drumming, or the sound of drums, maybe even chanting, rattling, repetitive, which you referred to, boring work, which I don't know. I kind of like it. I like, even in fact, when I'm cleaning, it's cathartic cleaning. I just imagine that I'm not just cleaning the bathroom. I'm, cleaning out those lower chakras as well, which kind of sends me into a trance kind of automatically. But let's say we wanted to try drumming. Would we want to listen to a nice CD of drumming, or if we have our own drum, can we put ourselves in a trance by drumming ourselves?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I always drum for myself. In the very beginning, I used to journey without any drumming. And then when I actually was on some workshops where they drummed, I thought, gosh, with all that racket, how can you do a meditation? And then, and then afterwards I found that actually the drum got me deeper. And then I started using drumming tapes. And they are good because you can lie down even, you can completely let go of the body. You don't need to do anything, just listen to the drumming tape. As long as you can stay awake and not just drop off into a sleepy state. But then, after some time, I started using my own drum. And again, it was a transition, because when I first tried to use my own drum, I found that my arm was hurting, my shoulder was hurting, and, I couldn't drum long enough. Now I got the technique down. I can drum over an hour without my arm hurting.
Okay, and are we talking big drums or little drums that fit in your lap, or does it matter?
I have a frame drum. Mine is a 14-inch. I tried with a 16-inch. It was too heavy for me. So it depends on, your strength. And, a big, strong guy is probably be able to hold a bigger drum than a little thin girl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Without being a sexist now.
Okay, so, and you're saying with joking. You can drum for an entire hour. Now, I'm assuming you're already in the trance, so you can be in the trance and drum at the same time.
Yeah, I can do that now. In the beginning, It was difficult. So you have to find a method, like I will prop my elbow on a pillow, and I usually sit cross-legged. That's how I do it. But somebody else may want to sit in a nice chair. But you need to support your arm, because if you have to hold your arm in the air, then all your muscles will tighten up. And you need to learn how to basically move only the wrist a little bit to move the drumstick, rather than like your whole arm going back and forth, because you wouldn't be able to drum like that for an hour. So that your body is doing minimum movements and is not tiring the muscles too quickly. And then, you have to start to let go of the body. And I can basically split my consciousness pretty well, so that a part of me can continue the drumming and the other part goes off to wherever. A lot of shamans, when you hear from ancient cultures, they had an assistant who would drum for them, because when you're going in a very, very deep state, an extremely deep trance, then it becomes very difficult to drum. I can still drum when I'm in a very deep state, but I've noticed sometimes the drumming will go down to very, very slowly, and I only noticed that when I'm kind of coming out again, yeah? Mm-hmm. But at that point, it doesn't matter anymore, because I'm so deep in trance.
Yeah. Anyway. Like, we missed a beat. Oh, well.
So the question is, if people ask themselves, should I have my own drum, or should I just get a drumming tape? I really think the electronic media in the end, somehow soulless. And I think I go much deeper now with my own drum. I know I go much deeper than I did with the tapes. And also, your rhythm will change. Your drumming will change as certain things happen during the journey, like when you're encountering danger, or when you're getting rid of nasty things, or...
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out. The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Achieving trance states is the topic tonight. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And Shakti, I'm just thinking that, these trance states you're speaking about and doing the drumming and such, wouldn't that be where all of the great art and creativity comes from anyways? These trance states, people achieving maybe naturally without even trying, whether it's, triggered through their music or through their art or vice versa?
Well, some great musicians have actually got some of their greatest works in their sleep. I've heard divine music in my sleep before, and it was really beautiful, but I could not reproduce it at all, and I don't know how to write music down in notes, just like from memory. I can't do that. Anyway, I think when you are spending more time in the trance states, you basically plugged in all the time, or at least you plugged in a lot more than other people, and then eventually it becomes almost like a permanent state, so that you're always in a state of being plugged in or on the threshold of crossing over. And then things can come through from the other world. Either you're more in touch with your higher self, but also I think that divine beings can sometimes, and higher beings can sometimes, whisper little things in your ear and give you inspiration. I mean, it's not for nothing that people have always talked about the muses. So who says that they are not real actual beings that exist in a non-physical realm, and that come and inspire us if we are open to it and can put ourselves in the right state of mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell you, I get my best work done in my dreams. Okay, so let me ask you some of the other methods that you had mentioned. Let's see, the breathing, drumming, rattling, chanting, repetitive work, repetitive sounds, including like running water, maybe even nature. What about the crickets and cicadas and tree frogs?
I mean, the sounds of nature are really conducive for relaxation. Even if you're just listening to a nature sound tape, I have a few of those, but of course it's much better if you're out in actual nature than sitting in your living room and listening to a nature recording.
Yeah, or just open the windows when you're in your living room,
But I'm sure everybody has been uplifted by the song of birds before, and relaxed when they were sitting by the ocean and they were listening to the sound of the ocean. So these things, of course, they all help. And you have to find what puts you in a trance and what works best for you. And you can always also combine things, There's no reason why, for example, you can't go out in nature with your drum and then sit there while there's all the nature sounds and drum as well. The rattling is a little bit different. The rattling needs some getting used to if you want to get in a trance. I find it a little bit more difficult, but I have tried something out where another shaman was rattling, and we were doing something called trance postures. Even though they didn't work that well on me, something did happen though, but I was violently sick afterwards. So if these things involve you puking your guts out afterwards, which I did, then I don't know whether I want to, and I don't know why, because I'm not really that toxic, but I'm not sure whether everything was done correctly. Anyway, at that time, and I have had experience with that, if somebody's rattling over your head specifically, things can really happen. You go into a strange altered state when somebody is rattling around your head or over your head. That I have several times experienced. I can even do it on myself, and I can notice the effect of it. And in chanting, sometimes people will just, chant something repetitively. It can even be in English or whatever is your mother language. And that will have an effect of putting you in a trance if you like repeating the same thing over and over, because it frees the mind from its tethers and the mind not really being very interested, after a while it is free to roam, and then you might enter into a trance. Sometimes, women went into a trance when they were weaving, or, I can go into a trance while I do a bit of cross stitch as well.
Or crochet, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
These things are quite magical.
Yeah, they are. Now, let me ask you about the chanting and mantras and such, and this is specifically for beginners like me, who, because it is true that certain sounds, vibrations, word patterns, and things can, affect our psyche on levels that we are not conscious of. And I have, experienced personally where there are certain things that maybe or words or repetitive chants that maybe could even invite, say, demons or negative entities and such. So how can we know that a certain mantra or chant is safe, or that at least is along the lines of our intent when achieving these trance states? Can you recommend maybe any books or websites or something that are safe and pure?
I think all the Vedic mantras are safe. At least you will not invite demons in, but some of the Vedic mantras are advanced. If you're working like with the wisdom goddesses or the tantric path, some of them, not for beginners, but when people using most of the Vedic mantras can just be used, and they will definitely not invite any demons in.
Okay.
And if you're just repeating what some people call a mantra, but really isn't, like a repetitive phrase in your own language, that's not going to invite demons in, unless you're saying something like, I invite the demon so-and-so.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which hopefully you won't be doing.
Yeah.
Then, so if you're just saying something repetitive, like, I don't know, I'm in power or whatever, then that's not going to invite demons in either. Careful you have to be with things in strange languages that you don't understand.
Yeah.
That I just wouldn't be like 10,000 times repeating something in an ancient language that I don't understand, because you have no idea what would be the effect of that.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so, all right, so maybe you're suggesting stick with language that we're familiar with, or, I know there's a lot, like Sanskrit and such, and Om Mani Padme Hum, or, however you say that. If we don't really know what it means, or somebody, like, hi, my name is, Joe Blow, and I'm a shaman, and just repeat these words after me, and, you'll awaken your kundalini, or whatever else. If you don't know what those words are, it's probably safer to just, do your research, figure it out, or find someone that you trust before you're chanting words in another language. Would you agree with that? Okay.
Absolutely, Christie. Don't be gullible, there are so many black sheep out there. Vedic mantras you can research very easily. There's a lot of Hindu websites where you can research the different deities and their mantras, and then their abstract mantras. I have also a page on mantra yoga on my website, so you can read a little bit about that if you're interested to get an introduction to it. And, if a shaman gets a power song, which often happens, then you get a song taught by the spirits, and that is your own song, and then you don't have to fear anything. But the only thing you have to be careful, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to teach you something in ancient Babylonian, we're going to invoke now the so-and-so blah, blah, blah god or something, and you don't know what that actually is that you're invoking there, I would definitely not repeat it. Yeah,
our ancient elfin language, or, and maybe it is real, maybe it is true, maybe it's pure, but I'm just saying for beginners, and I consider myself a beginner, even though I've been going into trance states naturally for 40 years. I'm still a beginner too. So just be leery, as in everything else. If you don't trust the people that are teaching you these things, or, you're finding it just on some random website, check it out. And of course, use those discerning tools you have in your gut and your heart, right? Does this feel good? Do
Absolutely.
I really want to do this? Or maybe I'll just go in the trance alone and get your own song, right?
Yes, eventually you get your own power song, and usually you get that when you go out in nature, when you're working with plants. When I say working with plants, I don't necessarily mean you have to take them in and, so that you can hallucinate, as they always call it. I have to laugh about the hallucination.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right. Welcome back. Top of the second hour here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Our special guest tonight and every second Tuesday of the month is Shaman Avalon Sakti. SacredSerpent.net is the website. She is a trained and experienced shaman, adept in soul retrievals, past lives, all sorts of shamanic journeying for healing and transformation. And tonight, she is teaching us different ways to achieve trance states and why we might want to achieve these states. And we left off talking about mantras and some of the other methods to achieve that, and some other ones that you had jotted down to discuss here tonight. Sacred plants, sensory deprivation, sleep deprivation, which you said can also have the opposite effect, pain, poison, life-threatening situations, and geographical power spots. So let's talk a little bit about sacred plants here. And would that be the same as poison?
Well, some of the sacred plants are poisonous, but these ones are not to be taken just by anybody who thinks that, hey, maybe I get into a trance if I try this poisonous plant, because you may go into a coma and then death.
Yeah, we are not recommending any of this, by the way. Just put out that little disclaimer. No, we are not recommending any of whatever plants, poisons, or really anything we're talking about here tonight. So as always, use your own judgment, your own wisdom. Okay, so what would some of these...
what I'm saying is that basically, how do you break into an altered state of consciousness? Sometimes it just happens because you are in a situation, and that's why I put life-threatening situation there. And it doesn't mean that I'm telling the listeners, try getting yourself in a life-threatening situation. Maybe you'll get a trance. But sometimes when you are in a situation like this, then naturally you're breaking through to another state of consciousness, because your spirit, your soul knows that this is going to be the end now, unless I come up with a solution right now. And then it accesses a part of your mind that you normally don't have access to. Yes. And you may experience going in an altered state in these situations. Or let's say sometimes people have a disease and they have a serious fever. And, we always have heard of people hallucinating. Here we got the nice word again. I love this word because I ever thought about it. The word hallucination has the word lucid in the middle.
Yeah, good point.
So what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so you might, in a situation like having a fever, and then you might actually get visions and access a trance state. But now I'm not saying that, hey, try to get a fever so that you can experience a trance state, right? I mean, use your intelligence and your brain, people.
Absolutely. Those are very good points, though. I mean, especially like the life or death situation. I've been in a few of those. In fact, I'll just bring up one that was like 20 or so years ago. I was in an accident, and if you would have seen it or the car, I should not have lived through it. In fact, even the doctors said it was the worst bruises that they had ever seen on anyone who's lived. But during this situation, everything seemed to like slow down, and like my angels told me, Christie, lift up your legs. And I just did because, well, I don't know. I just did. And apparently, even though it all happened maybe like an eighth of a second, it seemed like it was a couple minutes to me. But that act alone was able to save my legs because my engine was literally in the front seat, totally totaled. So, yeah, I'll definitely remember that trance state the rest of my life. Maybe it wasn't as spiritual as we would, I wouldn't call it a shamanic journey, but it was definitely a type of trance state that gave me the information that I needed to save my life at that particular, or at least my legs at that particular moment.
Yeah, you see, Christie, you have accessed an altered state of mind, and I also experienced this kind of time warp before. In fact, it's on my website. If you're looking up the essays, or if you go onto the Shiva Yoga menu and then look for an article that's, what's it called now? The Power of Mantra, I think. And this is where me and my partner almost had a car accident, and the car started skidding. And my partner was turning the steering wheel left and right while the car was going back and forth between the rock wall and the abyss. Wow. Several times, and I was in this slow motion state while I was repeating my mantra. And in the end, the car kind of hopped back onto the road in a way that is completely impossible, almost as if a big hand had lifted it up in the air and turned it properly. Yeah. And I knew this was actually caused by the repetition of the mantra that caused this time warp, and that caused the car to get back onto the road. So I won't say that this was not a spiritual state, Christie. How much more spiritual can it get?
Oh, yeah. Well, I that's true, but I didn't, I at least wasn't aware of, God or whoever, talking to me and giving me all this great, insightful information and knowledge of how the universe works and, all of that stuff that we sometimes read about. So, yeah. I did want to, let me see, in the other one, you mentioned pain. And, I sometimes, you've probably heard me say here on the show that being paralyzed from the waist down, in a wheelchair in extreme, intense pain was one of the best things that had ever happened to me in my life. And this is exactly the reason why. It's what got me back on track to my innate abilities, my natural self, and, so, yeah. And again, I'm not saying go hurt yourself on purpose to get, to feel extreme pain or anything, but it definitely, in my experience, it has worked that way. In fact, even with my hand and all these other injuries I've had where I haven't gone to doctors or taken drugs or pain meds or anything, those have actually been pretty close to, if not the most enlightening experiences I've had.
I agree with you, Christie. And truth be told, I think all my power comes from my pain, from either the emotional or the physical one. During the times that I was in the most pain in my life is when I had like the most intense spiritual growth.
Yes. Definitely. I remember my last couple, one of my friends was like, Christie, you know how to heal it. Get your oils, put your hand on it, make it go away. I'm like, you don't understand. I don't want to. I want to feel it. I want to, it was just kind of my own journey. I know it sounds kind of crazy to talk about here, or maybe not that crazy if you're listening to the show, because you're already probably a little bit crazy. But you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to get rid of it. It wasn't my first instinct, because, we're taught that's our first instinct. If you feel pain, whatever it is, a headache, you fell down and bruised or whatever it is, we're taught to cover it up, make it go away. But the last few years, I'm like, damn, bring it on. So again, I'm recommending this to anyone. I'm just saying that's my personal experience.
Actually, when you're numbing out with painkillers, the things that you don't feel, that just gets suppressed in cellular memory, and then it causes problems later. I also don't take painkillers. When I broke my ankle, I had my ankles, the bone set completely without any painkillers, and they thought I was crazy in the hospital.
Yeah.
But I managed just fine, Christie. I didn't even blink didn't even blink my eyes once.
Yeah, we're all still here.
Actually easy, because I could manage to go into an altered state, which made it easy for me to tolerate this amount of pain. And, I'm not saying people should be inflicting pain on themselves, but hey, if you got lemons, you might as well make lemonade. So a lot of people have pain all the time for various reasons. They got rheumatism or whatever. You might as well go into the depths of that pain and use it as a catalyst for transformation, rather than numbing it out. And sometimes when you are in great pain, that's when you reach a certain level, and then there is like a breakthrough into an altered state of consciousness.
Yes, definitely.
And, so sometimes it happens when something happens to you, you break your leg or something, and you're going into this altered state of consciousness. And so you don't necessarily have to inflict pain on yourself. It may just come as life is full of pain anyway.
Yes, it is.
But then on the other hand, it has been a shamanic technique to push people over the edge with death initiations, pain and fear, really. These are the three things that have been used shamanically. And if you want to use pain, it's up to you. But, if you want to do that, then make sure you're not doing anything that leaves you with permanent health problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you this in regards to poison, which is on the list of one of the ways to get there. Does that mean that we should just go drink a whole bunch of fluoridated water, get some mercury, laden vaccines, high fructose corn syrup, GMOs, radiation? Should we actually are we doing it wrong, Shakti? Should we be lining up at McDonald's and school lunches or?
Yogis have always been known to take poisons to show they can transcend the poison and transmute it. And in order to do that, of course, they have to be in a higher state of mind. But if they can't do that, then death will result. It's also a shamanic technique of taking actual poisonous plants. And then you have to go into the underworld and meet the spirit of the plant. And if you can make friends with the plant, then it can become your helper. But if you fail, then you'll be damaged or dead.
Yeah.
And I've actually last week I've just put an article on my website, and you can find it under essays, and it's called Forest Death Initiation. If you like to read it. And that's my story when I was told by the spirits to take 3 different poisonous plants alone in the woods at night. And I've thought for a while, should I publish that? Again, people, you're free to read it. Have fun.
All right.
Knock yourself out with the reading, but please don't knock yourself out with the poisonous plants.
Unless, of course, you're called to it, right? I mean...
That's right, and then the only one you can complain to is not me or Christie. Then you have to go to your spirit guides and say, hey, spirit guides, you told me to take this.
Yeah, well, my belief is that if you are doing it, if you are called to it for that reason, that you're gonna wake up. You're not gonna kill yourself unless it's maybe these spirits or some crazy demons or something masquerading as something else. I don't know. Maybe that's possible. But let me ask you this in regards to poisonous / sacred plants. Like datura, for example. I've been reading quite a bit about that. Datura noxia or thorn apple or devil's trumpet or tolowak or whatever, whatever you call it. I've been reading a lot of stories about people going out and doing that and writing these reports where literally 98% of the stories I've read, they all ended up in the hospital. But I'm thinking that based on reading their reports is these people were looking for a high. They're thinking, oh, well, this is a party drug. I'm out of acid, so let's do this. Or they're taking speed. They're drinking alcohol. They're doing all of these things. So, I mean, and then they go and blame the plant, like it's the plant's fault. It's like, come on, you're the one chasing the high. You're not doing it with the right intent to begin with. So what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I've never chased a high. I've never been into the idea of getting a high. I'm high on life, really, and I can be laughing myself to death without any plants. But yes, these are very powerful plants, and these powerful plants, if you don't respect them, they kick you in the bum really hard, and you can end up in the hospital or dead. And I have actually used datura. Thorn apple is actually sacred to Lord Shiva, and I worship Lord Shiva. But when I was told to take it, I did not feel too good about it, because I read these stories as you read, and some of them are very scary, especially the ones where the one man turned into a werewolf, or his friend. He thought he saw his friend turn into a werewolf and ran, and then afterwards the friend reported when they got together again that he thought he had really turned into a werewolf. Oh, and that was one of the plants I had to take during my death initiation, and I was alone in the forest, and when you're alone in the forest at night and you're supposed to be taking a plant that gives you werewolf visions, you're not feeling too good about it at that moment. Yeah. And, I decided I was not going to run, and I was not going to move, and I wasn't going to do anything crazy. And I don't have a problem with datura, but I respect it. I would never just take it like to show it off to somebody, or because I'm looking for a high, and I'm not taking this like now. I'm sitting at home and taking datura here all the time. Really, honestly not. It was something I had to do that once, and I've done it, and I don't have to do this all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of this plant because as it turned out, it seems to go very well with me. I think I must know it from a previous lifetime. But I've heard of somebody who smoked only 3 seeds and went totally insane for a whole year, talking in numbers. Wow. So I don't recommend people to take these plants, and they are very, very...
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom.
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
They're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Shaman Shaman Avalon Sakti, our special guest. The topic, Achieving Trance States. Again, her website is sacredserpent.net. And if you want to read about her death initiation, you can go to spirituality. It's on the top right. Then put your cursor over essays and go to death initiation. Of course, there's tons of other information on her website, so don't stop there. But I'm posting that link and many others in the text chat if you would like to join us over at souljourneysradio.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call, 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And we left off talking about poisonous / sacred plants and the proper use of. And I don't know about you, Shakti, but I tell you, when I read those stories, I'm just like, I don't feel sorry for them at all. You know, it's like if all you think life is about is going out and chasing another drugged up high, then I don't know. You kind of deserve it. But, you know, we're talking about like spiritual transformation here. This is not to be confused with whatever that extra high you're looking for after your rave party or whatever on a Saturday night. Okay. These are sacred plants for a reason. And as Shakti said, they will kick your ass if you're not in the right frame of mind. Again, we are not recommending any of this, but, you know, for those that are called, there's nothing you can do. And you know, I don't really want to put myself out there too much, but I'll just say I have been called to take poison. And, you know, the couple people I told were like, oh my God, you can't do that. That's crazy. That's crazy. But, you know, there's no way when you're called, when you know, there's nothing that anyone can say or do to keep you from doing it, right?
Well, first of all, if I'm called to do things, I never tell anybody before. I only talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, I'm learning.
And then it's between me and the spirits. I do research. If I get called to do something that seems strange, I've been told to do some very, very strange things that were scary, really scary, dangerous, could have ended deadly, including my little skydiving adventure. Skydiving was probably the most harmless of all of them. And some of them also were very, very painful physically. So, and I just think it over when the spirits tell me these things. Sometimes it's very shocking, and I'm like, oh my God, please don't tell me that this is what you want me to do now. Okay, I'll think that over. Sometimes I immediately said okay, and then afterwards I thought, oh, why did I say I was gonna do it?
Yeah.
And other times, you know, I kind of let me think about this first. But usually I didn't think about it for too long. And you just know in your heart that this is what you need to do, even if you don't understand the full reason for it sometimes.
Yes.
But all these experiences have really changed me. They've changed me in many, many ways, and they made me stronger. I think they made me braver, even though I've never really been a coward to start with. And they made me more assured of my own power, and they taught me what my mind can do when pushed to the limit. And they have opened up real spiritual power for me somehow. I don't need the sacred plants anymore. I'm sorry for the other people who can't have them because so many of them are banned. But I can work with plants now. I can work with some plants which are not banned and which are common weeds, and they can be used in various ways, not necessarily even taking them internally. You can also meditate with the plant spirit and do a lot of other things. So it's possible to connect with the plant world without breaking a law and still having shamanic experiences. And I would advise people not to do anything that can get them into trouble because, hey, it's not worth it getting a trance state and then a year in prison, really.
Yeah, and wake up there, that would suck. Probably worse than waking up in a hospital like the Datura people.
And please make sure that if you think the Spirit's telling you to do certain things and you're being called, that it's not your ego you're listening to. I knew a man who who did that, and he said the spirits told him he would go straight into the bliss if he took, and he was taking also mandrake, thorn apple, and what was the other one? Henbane, something. He was taking these plants, and he almost didn't wake up, and we had problems calling him back. So if you think that you can do it, but you're actually not strong enough, you can be in a very big problem. You can really be dead, or you can have permanent health problems, or your mind can be messed up because you cannot handle the experience that you had and you can't process it, and then you can't function and go to work for a long time, or end up being treated in a psychiatric ward, and these are all very bad scenarios. Definitely. So the work with the sacred plant is advanced shamanic work. This isn't what you do before you've done any other shamanic work. This is what you do if you've done other things and if the spirits really call you. And this is something that you yourself need to decide, and there's nobody else to blame if you do these things. Yes. And neither Christie nor I nor American Freedom Radio or anyone else is going to take responsibility for that.
Yes.
The reason why
Christie did it?
Yes, yeah, and Shakti did it too, But
they said it was okay.
There's a saying, and it is one man's food is another man's poison. Yes. And some animals like deer can eat certain mushrooms that will kill us. You can't say, "Hey, I saw the deer eating the mushroom, so I tried it too." Yeah. And people are different. Advanced yogis can be buried in the earth for months, but would you like to try it?
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
Yeah. Not yet, anyways. Until you're called, right? When you're called, there's no denying it. But, okay, so, Shakti, we have already done, people are asking about different types of herbs and things, and I just want to say we've already done shows on sacred plants and got into more specifics. So go listen to those archives to hear more about that. But if you would, if you don't mind, maybe giving us just a brief overview of some of the herbs or sacred plants or poison that we have mentioned tonight. I think henbane came up, thornapple, datura, mandrake. What are they? Maybe many of our listeners have never even heard of them.
I don't really know whether I want to go down that track, because then we will go completely off the topic and only into this. They are all power plants, and they have different things to teach for the ones that are ready. And they're sacred to different gods. So also sometimes when you're working with a particular deity, the deity wants you to make friends with its power plants. Sometimes you only need a minute quantity to do that. And sometimes you have to do like a more hardcore initiation. For example, thornapple is sacred to Lord Shiva, henbane sacred to Hecate, and mandrake's also sacred to Hecate, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they have different effects. I know that thornapple is good for transcending limitations of the mind. It's also said to be good for astral projection. Some of these plants were used in the witch's flying ointment. Mm-hmm. Henbane really is not going to give anybody a trip in case somebody crazy wants to try that out, because it really puts you through a death. Mm-hmm. And if you can't handle that, you won't be able to come back, and you won't have any experience besides going in a coma and being dead. And a mandrake is supposed to be very empowering, but it can put the mind in a really mad state. So what's going to happen, or what can happen, is that your mind is going to go into some kind of hyper state where it's throwing out things that aren't needed anymore. But if you can't handle it, you'll be going stark raving mad.
Yeah.
And it can also put you in a coma, because in the Middle Ages, in the medieval times, they used mandrake for surgeries because it has a numbing effect. Mm-hmm. So these plants are very dangerous. They're not supposed to be taken by beginners, and I'm not supposed to tell you to take them at all.
No,
I'm not. I
would never tell anyone to take them. No.
Me neither. I wouldn't even if they were completely legal and you could get them on the street corner, I wouldn't be advising people to take them, because this is not something you do in a casual way. This is a very, very serious matter. And that's not something that you do all the time, like, okay, what am I going to do this week?
Yeah. Hey, I'll try this plant.
The work with sacred plant is not for every shaman either.
No.
Actually, when you're reading the Carlos Castaneda books, you have some stories about the datura as well. I found those very amusing. I would recommend everybody to read this. There are other plants that you can work with that aren't illegal and that are having some magical effects and that are safe. For example, mugwort. Mugwort is good for enhancing psychic abilities, and it's not poisonous. We used to actually put it in the Sunday gravy when I was a child.
Oh, wow. And what is this?
It's called mugwort.
Macwad. Huh. Is there another name that it goes by?
Moonwort, Mugwort.
Oh, mugwort.
Yeah.
Oh, mugwort. Okay, I misunderstood. Okay. Oh, yeah. I love
Maybe
mugwort.
I didn't pronounce it correctly. Yeah, that's the one I mean. That's a plant you can use, you can make a tea from it before you sleep to enhance dreaming, and it's completely safe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exactly get you into a trance state, but, it might help you relax a bit more and access, a more dreamlike state in an easier way. I mean, even a cup of chamomile tea has a relaxing effect, let's just face it. But mugwort is particularly for dream states. It's good for dream states and visions. Can also be smoked. But, I'd like to come back to how we can access trance states. I really think the safest ways are the breath and the drumming or rattling. And you can choose which one works better for you. These are very, very safe. And everybody can do them. They haven't made them illegal yet. They might tax us for the breathing later if we're using up too much oxygen. And of course, we're also not recommending that you are getting into a life-threatening situation. But these are just sometimes these situations when they do happen. When you get into a situation like this and then you have accessed an altered state, you will be forever changed. Because no matter what happens afterwards, you'll have that memory of the other that you have seen and touched. And then your rational mind is not going to go off and say it's all fantasy, it doesn't really exist, because you have had proof, personal experience. Yes. And once this has happened, sometimes there is a certain confidence that comes with it naturally, so that there is something else. Because among the obstacles to trance state, number one obstacle is the rational mind.
Yeah, I can see that.
Of course, you can't throw away your rational mind, and it's a useful tool. There's nothing against the rational mind. It's when we are overemphasizing it and we are neglecting using our right brain, which is the creative brain and the brain that is in charge of meditative states and that can connect with everything and really see the bigger picture, which the left brain can't get. Mm-hmm. So I have noticed when I'm trying to teach people how to access a trance state and do a shamanic journey, and when they come out from the journey and you discuss with them, so how did it go for you? Very common for beginners is that they said they got nowhere. And then when you ask them, like, what happened? They were saying, yeah, I thought I saw some trees, but then I thought I made it up.
Yeah.
So you see, actually something was happening. The vision was starting to build up. And then at that moment, the rational mind kicked in and said, you're just making it up. It isn't real. Mm-hmm. And that is the end of the trance state.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
How time flies when you are having fun while learning, of course, with Shaman Avalon Sakti. Again, her website is sacredserpent.net. Tons of useful articles and information there. And don't forget to check out the Magic Shop, as well as some of her essays on her personal experiences and visions and such. So that's sacredserpent.net. And I guess in the last segment here, Sakti, we can continue discussing some of the obstacles to the trance state. As you mentioned, our left brain, woohoo, my best friend. Maybe not. Oh, my gosh. And what we can do about it. So please continue.
Well, the first thing is you have to learn, you have to really wrap your mind around it, that your consciousness can be in several places at the same time.
Yeah.
And we've all done that before, you know. You might be typing a letter, and then at the same time you're thinking back of something that happened in another time, another place. Yeah. So when you're sitting at home in your armchair and then you go on a shamanic journey, most people think it's not real because you will say, well, I still felt how uncomfortable the chair was and my back was hurting me and my nose was itchy. That doesn't mean that you weren't somewhere else with part of your consciousness. And we always make physical reality into the only reality. The yogis actually teach that there are 4 states of mind. There is the waking state, which we call reality. There is the dream state that most people say it's nonsense and it's not reality. And then there is the dreamless state, where people just think nothing happens. But according to the yogis, all these 3 states are equally unreal. And the only real state is called Turiya, and that means that's the beyond state in which the mind goes when it is neither awake nor sleeping and dreaming, nor in a dull, unconscious state during dream state. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the meditative state, the super consciousness where everything opens up. And that state is also accessible to shamans, but you have to be on a very high level before you break into that state. It's not like something that a beginner just experiences so easily. It's a very great gift to break through into that state. Mm-hmm. So when you know that the dream at night is just as real as your waking experience, or just as unreal, depends on which way you want to look at it, then the shamanic journey is equally as real as your daily reality, if not more real.
Yes. Well, let me ask you this, Sakti, question that came up on the chat. How can you tell the difference between visions and psychic abilities and letting your imagination run away with you?
Well, imagination comes from I, the magician.
Yeah. So what if they're the same?
On the astral planes, whatever you think becomes. So if you think you have a knife in your hand, then you're creating an actual knife in your hand on the astral planes. Now, in physical reality, because matter is so dense, it doesn't work that way. We sometimes create something, but it takes longer to manifest. Say, if you're thinking negative thoughts long enough, then the negative thing that you're constantly dwelling on may eventually come to pass, but it's not instant. Yes. On the astral planes, things are a lot more fluid, so it really becomes. So when you are imagining something, it becomes, and it is real. And that is the thing that you need to let go of, this idea that I'm probably making it up. Just go with the flow and experience first, and it won't take very long, and you will have an experience during your shamanic journeys that will convince you without a shadow of a doubt that this is real, because either you will get some, amazing physical healing, or you will get knowledge of something that you could not possibly have got any other way. Or, sometimes things will happen. For example, higher beings or your spirit guides will make changes to your energy body, and you will have physical effects that are undeniable. And then you cannot say anymore, that was just my imagination.
Yes.
But,
okay.
Even it
so it is
matter
pretty much the same. It's just something we're taught, oh, that's just your imagination, or oh, it's just a dream. And those words are what keep us from those visions and psychic experiences that she was mentioning on the text chat in that question. They are the same thing, aren't they?
Well, when the visions go up, it's very similar to when you start to dream in the evening at night. I mean, when you're lying in your bed and before you fall asleep, often you start to see some images. And that's basically the visions unfurling. And it's similar when you're entering into a shamanic trance. And first they may be blurry, and then they get clearer, and then you're right in there, and you just follow along. But if in the moment when it happens, you tell yourself, oh, it's probably just me imagining it, it's probably all nonsense, I'm wasting my time here, then that's the end of it. And this is a handicap that we modern people have, that the shamans in the old days didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to just overcome that and let go of it and have the mind of a child. Just, let it be exciting. Just go along with it. And you can judge whether it was just all nonsense after a month or two.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we get it's easier said than done, right? Like we can maybe acknowledge our over anal eyes or our left brain or our, version of reality or whatever it is. We can recognize that it may be in our way sometimes. So are there any practices or tools or tips that you can offer for those of us who, we realize that's what it is, yet we still do it sometimes? What can we do? Is that the time where we would want to focus on the breathing or the drumming or, some other method of, some chanting or...
I have a very powerful, effective mantra for that, Christie, and I'll share it with you. It's called Shut Up.
How did I know that's what it was going to be?
Because it happens to me also sometimes, honestly, I'm starting to cross over and the vision begins to open up and I see something and then I thought, that's probably because you read something about, or because you saw this on the internet, and probably that's why you're coming up with this image. And then I know it's the rational mind, and I'll tell it, shut up, you're not needed right now. And,
thank you for being here. Move along. We're busy.
And that works. That works for me.
All right. That's my new favorite mantra. Shut up. All right. Perfect. Yeah, so, at least if we're recognizing it, then that's probably, how much further can you go anyways? You're at least conscious of it. So, yeah, tell yourself to shut the hell up. Woohoo! All right, so are there any other obstacles that we may encounter when trying to achieve these trance states?
A very big one is fear. I hear this all the time. I try to get people on a shamanic journey. Specifically, people are very afraid of going into the underworld. They seem to think that underworld is like a hell region.
Okay.
I'm having a really bad echo at the moment, Christy.
Uh-oh. Well, we got about 1 minute before we get cut off.
You need to really overcome the fear. Nothing can happen during the shamanic journey. And then the other thing is self-doubts. If, for example, people think that I'm not good enough, maybe others can do it, but not I. These are thoughts you have to get out of your head. Over-analyzing is very common, and people do this as a habit. So you should stop analyzing all the time, because over-analyzing means you're not in your emotional body. You try to prevent yourself from feeling things, so you try to be on the intellectual side so you can avoid feeling your own pain, which is a very common behavior pattern. Noise is a distraction. I mean, if you're having a construction site right next to your house, you might find it difficult to get into a trance. Constant disruption can be a problem. So if you have small children or animals, it gets a little bit difficult setting it up in such a way that you will be undisturbed for a while. And then, insufficient spiritual development, if you're just not on a spiritual state. But most of the time, people who are insufficiently spiritually developed won't even want to take a course on shamanism or get into a trance state. They will think of how can I increase my income in my bank account, and not how can I get into a trance state.
Yeah.
And the other thing are substances. People are taking way too many unhealthy things that are messing with their mind, from the fluoride in the toothpaste to the coffee, which makes your mind too high.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
You're listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.